Hey everybody, today we're talking about Invincible Compendium 1. Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're talking about a big heifer of a book, Invincible Compendium 1. Yes, I've just finished reading it. I did not go upstairs to film because I have COVID, so I'm cooped up here, and I just read Compendium 1 in about a day and a half. Now, it is an amazing read. 2 thumbs up way so far, and I think I waited so long. I've had this for like a year and a half. I waited so long to read this, mainly because it is so big. It is 0 through 47, so 48 issues entirely of invincible goodness, and it is a monster beast. So when I got cooped up in here and just staying away from everybody so I don't ruin everybody else's weekend on my birthday, I was like, I'm gonna go start reading Invincible since that's one book. I have to cut down a lot of books since I'm a pretty fast reader, and I can take a crack into that, and maybe I'll get through it, the first compendium, in the couple of days that I'm here. Well, I have reached the end of that goal, and so I'm not sure if I'm going to start Compendium 2 and see if I can power through that before I get out of here, or if I'm going to go all the way. Who knows? It's a phenomenal read, I got to tell you. I think the secret is the first time I was reading it, I realized like I was in it, because I've read half of this series before. I think I've read up through issue 65 or something like that in college. And that may have been like when they were coming out. Like that may have been, I maybe got current or something like that at one point in time. Through library books and, other things like that is how I read them. But I remember reading them, and I have not gone back to them since like what? At least 2009. So I forgot a lot of things that I had read before. And you hear me slapping the book because it's a hefty monster. I'm not going to be paging through it on camera like I do normally, because I am holding my phone, and this thing is pretty hefty. This thing retails for $65, and I gotta say, for $65 for 48 issues, it is a awesome deal, I would say. And I mean, there's other sites online you can find it for an even bigger discount than that, but it's a really excellent book. I really enjoyed reading this. Having seen the Invincible series many years ago, I remember most of that plot when that was coming out, although they did change some things in the show, and I'm glad they did. I think that season 1 of the show, now I don't know if this is going to be true or not, but it seems to me like that season 1 got them to where they need to be to hit the ground running with where Compendium 2 probably starts. There's some things in there that they didn't quite do yet. There's other things they moved along, like it took him 48 issues here to tell you that Robot was a real human. You found that out way late in the game here, and they did that fairly early on in the show, I believe. Angstrom Levy is here. He's not in the show, so maybe that'll be season 2. I've seen the preview. I'm not sure if he shows up. There's a lot of stuff with Alan the Alien I don't think they quite moved along with as fast. You see him like 3 or 4 times in these 47 issues. That's fun. And they certainly don't get to Invincible's brother in the season 1. But I think everything else is kind of caught up. So I wouldn't be surprised if we move a little fast when we get to season 2. So that is exciting. I really like the focus here on just how manic this world is. Like, Mark is splitting time between being a superhero, being a son, being a student, being a boyfriend, and you really feel that here in this book. One thing that Robert Kirkman, I haven't mentioned the creators at all yet in the first 30 minutes of this video, Robert Kirkman does a phenomenal job getting that classic Spider-Man feel. And that's kind of what you get here. So just remember, I guess, when you read this, that this book came out, I don't know when it was coming out, originally came out in the early 2000s, right? 2004 or something like that, at least. So it's been around a long time. So when you're reading it, and you're looking at art. The art doesn't look dated or anything like that. It's from the early 2000s. It's got computerized coloring. The stuff from Ryan Otley and co-creator Corey Walker is phenomenal. There's some writing in here that is dated now here in 2023. The G word, the slur, calling somebody, a homosexual is used in here semi-frequently. And I don't remember if the roommate comes out as a homosexual later on, but yeah, they do call each other the G word a little bit. And that was kind of the thing when I was in high school and college. We did that. We don't do it anymore, but I'm just saying, like, when you're reading it, that is there. The R word that ends in arted is used in here. Oh, not a whole bunch, but about as much as that G word that we also don't use anymore. So both those words aren't really PC anymore, but they are here. So just remember that as you're reading it, and don't let that get to you. They're words that were used, and they're of their time back in the early 2000s, although you will forget it while you're reading it because they have cell phones and things like that. There's no smartphones really in here, so it is kind of timeless. It doesn't really set it in an era. Like, Mark's using a beeper in this first volume to get notifications that he needs to, be, a superhero and things like that. So there's a whole lot of fun stuff in here. But it is a little bit of its time, I would say, in the early 2000s with the beeper and the words and stuff like that. I will say, going back to what they accomplished, though, Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker, and Ryan Otley really give you a Spider-Man feel. Like, this is what it must have felt like to read Spider-Man in the 60s. You have a guy who's splitting time between all these different things, and it's kind of fun to see the twist on it. And I say it's a twist on Spider-Man, and it's a twist on Superman, and all those things rolled into one. Like, he's a twist on Superman because he's got almost the same powers. He can fly, he's invincible, super speed, not even super speed, just super strength, and he can fly really fast, right? And he's got, so super strength makes him invincible. Doesn't have the laser eyes or the cold breath or whatever. And then he's also got the, so it's a twist on that because he's got this almost the same powers as Superman or Shazam. But it's a twist because he's the son of the guy who was this world's Superman. That would be Omni-Man, right? That's J. Jonah Jameson in the animated show, things like that. But it's also a twist because it's the Spider-Man thing. It's this son of Superman almost going through life and dealing with things in just a way that's grounded and down to earth in a way that I don't think comics really do anymore. So I'm very interested to see where this next volume goes. This is a hefty book. It's just so hard to read. Not hard to read, like I got through it, but my left hand, literally I just finished 10 minutes ago. My left hand hurts from holding it because as you get to the end, your left hand gets heavier and heavier because the way the pages are. Whereas when you're in the beginning, I'm right-handed, so my right hand is probably a little bit stronger, so it didn't hurt as much when I was reading it. And then maybe also the position. I was hunched over in this chair over here reading it a little bit ago. But I loved it. I got to say, this compendium held up pretty well. It's only been a couple of days. It did have a little, it does have a little, not a crack, but a wrinkle in the words here. You can kind of see it. So that is something to be aware of. And I know there are hardcovers now of these compendiums out. I don't know if they're like special order or whatever, but you could probably find them if you want. So that is something to think about. If you want a perfectly conditioned book on your shelf, then don't read it or buy the hardcover. But I'm not sure how much heavier it would be. One thing I will say, I was expecting some thinner paper, and there is white all over these pages. And when I was reading it, I could not see anything through the pages. Like, that's why this book is so heavy, because they use this really thick paper. There's a lot of white space in here in between chapters and things like that. And they did a really good job picking the paper. And I think because it's such of a thicker paper stock, that's why this book is so damned heavy. Things I loved. I loved reading this and like just seeing the different things and how they played out and remembering how they played out. I love the Omni-Man twist. I think it's one of the best things in comics in the last 20 years. hey, your dad is actually the supervillain and it's even worse than you think. I love that twist. That is so good. Um, I feel like it's okay to say because, A, the show's been out for a little while and, Invincible's been over for a number of years also. But it is just so much fun. The thing about his dad going and finding another wife and siring a brother, I thought that was hilarious. All the different times he goes and talks to his tailor because he's ripped up his costume. They still haven't figured out like unstable molecules or things like that. So he always needs new costumes. The Angstrom Levy stuff, I think, was the strongest arc in here. There was some other strong stuff. Every time he goes out to space, it's always super interesting, always super fun. But the Angstrom Levy fight, where he comes back and threatens his parents, and they go through this portal stuff, and Mark, ends up in the desert and then gets rescued by the future Guardians of the Globe, it's just really quickly glossed over. And it has repercussions later on a little bit in the relationship stuff. But you got to think of in the world, like, that actually happened. And that is a story we will never get to see of these Guardians of the Globe searching for Invincible across dimensions for, what they say, 15 years. Like some of these people have gray hairs when they meet Mark. And Adam Eve just comes out and says the thing out loud, like, I love you. I've always loved you. Please go back in time, go back to your time and tell my younger self that you either love me or don't so I can move on with my life because I'm so obsessed with you. And then later on in the book, when that actually does happen, Adam Eve is just like, wait, do you love me, or you just love me because future me told me I loved you? And that was like, I just finished that issue and I was like, wow, oh my gosh, this is phenomenal writing. Like, there are things that Kirkman did in Invincible that I have not seen in modern superhero comics in the last 20 years. Like, when I read this in college, I thought the same thing, that this is the best superhero book I'd ever read. And I don't know why I never picked it back up. There are things in here, I think mainly because it's an Image book. He's taking risks. It's the same thing with Walking Dead. Why The Walking Dead was so good in the comics, at least. In the TV show, they got to pay those actors. They can't kill anybody. But in the comics, in Walking Dead, they could kill anybody. Anybody was up for grabs. It's the same thing here in Invincible. It's one comic, one universe. Eventually, I think it spins out into other things, but everybody is up for grabs. Anything can happen at any moment. And since there's nothing to keep a company afloat, he can take risks with characters. He can do things that you can't do at the big two. And that is what makes reading Invincible so much fun. I think if you're a comics fan and you haven't read this, you owe it to yourself to go read at least Invincible Compendium 1. I definitely think that's worth your time. And if you're not in love with it by the end of the compendium, then there's something wrong with you. This is a phenomenal, phenomenal book. Now, I got to say, like, it's a little risky if you think you are not going to love it, to go and buy a $65 book that's this big and this heavy. So I would say maybe check your local library and get the first 12 issues. The first 12 issues I think will get you there. And I think if you like that, or you're so on it, get the next 12. And I really think, I got to say, art-wise, like Cory Walker does the first 7 issues. Ryan Ottley comes in on issue 8 and goes all the way through to 47 on here. And I think, like, the first couple of issues Ryan Ottley was doing, I feel like he was aping Cory Walker a little bit. And their styles are very similar, at least when you're comparing, like, the first couple issues of Invincible to the end of Invincible on this volume anyway. But there is a shift somewhere around, I want to say it's like 16 to 18, issue 16 to 18, where Ryan Ottley just has a shift. And all of a sudden, his art takes a new leap stylistically. It's the same, but it's different. He's no longer aping Cory Walker. Maybe that's when he got the notice that he was going to be the new ongoing artist, and he was like, I'm going all out in my style. And that's really where this series kind of takes off, is when you feel like Ryan Ottley has ownership of this book because he's the main artist for the rest of the issues through, 144? And I know he has some breaks and stuff in between there, but it's pretty consistently Ryan Ottley's book after Cory Walker leaves on issue 7. I don't know what the story was. it's kind of this. It's kind of interesting to have the same situation here as The Walking Dead, because you have Tony Moore starting the first 6 issues of Walking Dead. He leaves. Charlie Adler comes on. Charlie Adler never leaves and goes all the way through to like whatever that ended with 183, right? Same thing with Ryan Otley. Just didn't do every single issue the way that Charlie Adler did. Not anything saying anything bad about anybody. I'm just saying that's the only difference between them, is that one guy did every single issue and one guy didn't after that. But it's still, like, to me, Ryan Otley, big time contributor to Invincible for sure. And he's actually, I thought I read somewhere that he actually got a different title, like contributing creator or something like that. Maybe it was somewhere else. But anyway, it's a phenomenal book. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to read more. Invincible, Compendium 1, go check it out. If you haven't read this series, you owe it to yourself to go read it. It's better than the show, that's for sure. The show is good, don't get me wrong. But this thing moves at a clip that TV show does not. And you are not ready for it if you think the TV show moves fast. This thing moves super fast, and it's awesome. So yeah, go pick up Invincible Compendium 1, my highest recommendation. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time here in the Funny Pages.